Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 9th, 2020 Planning Board meeting. It is 7 o'clock. Present tonight, we have Steve Wetruba, clerk to the board. We have Bill LePage, a member. We have myself, Daniel Edmondson, chairman, Bill Scanlon, acting town planner, and Michelle is here as our acting clerk. First order of business, approval of minutes from the last meeting, August 12th. You guys had a chance to read the minutes?
Yep. Yes.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we accept and approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented for the August 12th meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. See if we can get 2 copies around for signature. There you go, sir. The next item is an A&R plan, 71 Mason Road. Linda J. Selig Slap is a property, the property is sold to Nicholas Olivier, excuse me for pronouncing the last name incorrectly. Come on up, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Would you like me to give a quick overview?
Pardon me?
Would you like me to give a quick overview?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Quick introduction and then an overview would be great.
Sure. So my name's Norman Hill. I'm with the consulting firm of Land Planning. And the plan in front of you tonight would create 3 new lots. Zoning requires that each lot be at least 15,000 square feet and have at least 100 feet of frontage, which these 3 new lots and the existing lot would all meet. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So Bill, application, everything squared away?
Yes, it is. It's complete.
All monies received?
Yep.
No waivers are being requested?
No, you can't grant waivers on an A&R
But that's
plan.
true. Thank you for that correction.
Okay.
I think this is discussed briefly at our last meeting, where we just had a quick look at the plan. I can't remember if there are any questions or not from the board. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Hill?
Nope.
Steve?
No. Mr. Hill, do you happen to know how old that existing foundation is?
I don't know. The house number 71, I don't know how long it's been there. I don't.
That foundation is, if I had to guess, no more than 2 years old.
Yeah.
She came to the zoning board
Okay.
for a special permit for livestock.
Okay.
Because she wanted to get a horse or a pony,
Oh,
if I
okay.
remember right. And she was gonna build a little barn back there. And the foundation went in, I'd never seen anything go anywhere after that.
Yeah, okay.
It was probably a couple of years ago.
All right. That's coming out anyways, correct? According to the plan here, it says existing foundation to be
That's
removed.
going to be removed.
Yeah, okay. All right, because other than that being so right on that lot line, but obviously it's not going to matter if it's not going to be there.
Right.
And I understand the need for the common driveway because of the wetlands blocking the access there.
Yeah, that driveway's going to be common for lots 3 and 4. Just those 2 lots will use that driveway.
No further questions from me.
Dan, I did receive a phone call from Richard Clark, who couldn't be here this evening. He had some comments on the plan. I'd like to just go over them quickly.
Yep.
He's very concerned about the access to Mason Road, which he feels is narrow and has poor sight lines at this location. He was hoping that the fire department and the police department would offer comments as to the safety of the access onto this road. He feels it's kind of dangerous for pedestrians and bicyclists. It has no sidewalks, so he was a little concerned about of the ability of the road to accommodate a couple of new lots. So he just wanted me to put those comments out on the record. Normally we don't send these to the police and fire department for comments, because it's usually a planning board determination whether, the A&R plan conforms to the requirements of the planning board subdivision rules and regulations. But he did have those concerns about this.
Was that his only concern, only question?
Pardon?
Was that his only question, or did he have others?
No, I don't know, it's just his comments on the A&R plan itself.
That was it.
And coming from the Dudley Fire Station direction, going in that direction, you're gonna pass the three new lots, you're gonna be passing those on the left. That's almost a straightaway. I understand where Richard's talking about, where that bad curve is. So coming from the other direction would be an issue, but quite frankly, the existing house, comes up before, when you come around the corner, the existing house comes up before that anyways.
Right.
And, I mean, what can you do? You can't straighten the road out anymore. It's all built up around there. It's, across the street's fully built out. So,
I mean, I think the plan itself conforms. Each lot has the required frontage, and each lot is accessible from the public way, so I don't think there's really much the planning board can do about it at this point, but, there was a concern, there was a school further down, quite a bit further down on Mason Road. This might add, some more traffic.
As far as lot frontage is concerned, if we go to lot 4, there's an 8376 and a 3119, those to be added together, right?
Yes.
So we're at about 114, 115. The same for lot 3, we're at the 5704 and the 4614, so we're at a good 130 or 103 there.
Yep.
All right, and that includes the common driveway in those dimensions? Or is a common driveway
Yes, the common
not
driveway
included?
is on lot 3.
So the common driveway is included in the frontage for lot 3?
It is, yes.
Okay. And then, do we have any jurisdiction over utilities, et cetera? This is all be hooked in, is there town water out there? Town sewer?
Norman can maybe comment, I don't see any wells.
There
or
is town
something.
water, town sewer.
Yeah.
All of these houses would be connected to town water and town sewer.
So the common driveway is not a dead-end road, so there's no need for any kind of town input on fire hydrants or anything else?
We haven't shown the location of any hydrants.
You say have a hydrant shown?
I don't think we do.
No.
I didn't draft it, but I don't think we do.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think, I mean, it's a driveway. I mean, I've seen longer driveways. I really can't see the need for it, but just asking if it was in our jurisdiction, if it's something that the board might want to bring up. There's town water out there. There's got to be, I'm sure there's a fire hydrant along Mason Road someplace. I just can't recall exactly where it is.
I think there's one right at, because you're right near June Street right
Yep,
there.
yep.
I think there might be one right there. I don't know, I'm going by memory though.
And the Conservation Commission's going to be looking at this as far as the wetlands is concerned?
Yes, we submitted a plan like this. Didn't show the proposed houses or the lot lines, but it showed the wetlands, the topography, and the overall property line. We submitted that to the Conservation Commission as an ANRAD approval for them to certify that the wetland lines were accurate.
Yep.
And they said, yes, these are the accurate wetland lines. That process took us a couple months to get that done. Wanted to get that done before we brought this to you.
Okay. There's a note in the drawing that says the wetlands weren't flagged. So how do they know that it was shown accurately if they weren't flagged?
No, we showed them, when we walked the site with them, we showed them these two areas, and they agreed that they weren't wetlands, protected wetlands.
But the wetlands weren't flagged by our surveyor.
We had flagged the main wetland here, these two little areas we didn't flag, but we
Yep.
showed them the puddles. There's a law in Massachusetts that says if it doesn't hold over 10,000 cubic feet of water, it's not protected. And these held just a few hundred cubic
Okay,
feet of
did
water.
not know that. Thank you. All right, squared away. I've exhausted my questions. Anybody else have anything? No?
Does this require a notice of intent then from the Conservation
We will
Commission?
have to file a notice of intent for each of the 3 houses, yes.
Yeah, as Bill pointed out, it's not in our jurisdiction. It would be just a suggestion slash recommendation that, as it gets into construction, I noticed that where the wetlands are along Mason Road there, it's a lot of overgrowth. I'm not sure to what extent that could be cut away back from the road to allow better visual, better views in each direction for the driveway. That's the only recommendation I might have, but again, it's close to wetlands, it's not really our jurisdiction, just kind of a comment to follow up on Board Member Clark's comment. Otherwise, guys, let me make a motion to accept the plan as presented. There's a note on the one side, the lot is fully located within the town of Grafton water supply.
Yeah, I saw, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I saw that too. I meant to mention that.
It's just a small little thing, but other than that, everything looks squared away to me. What do you guys think? Motion?
Norm, can we strike that out, that note?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we,
Okay, that's one of your pens?
you don't wanna record that plan that way, right?
So is that completely accurate? Is there town water and sewer on that road?
There's a note up there that says,
Yeah, I see the Grafton water supply,
So
so
that's going away, sorry about
there's
that.
another note.
Stuff happens, don't worry about it.
no, it happens, I just want to confirm there's water and sewer up there.
There's a note that
It's-
says
we are
they
in
will
Dudley.
connect Lot 1 to the town sewer system, so that verifies there's sewer there.
So I'm going to leave the phrase that says the lots are serviced by town sewer and water.
Mhm.
The board has no further questions, we can entertain a motion to accept the plan.
All right, so how do we wanna treat this, this small error here with the note about the Grafton water supply?
He crossed it out,
Oh, okay, and we just sign it that way?
yes.
Okay, all right, sure. So I make a motion that we approve the A&R plan for 71 Mason Road as submitted.
Second?
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second to accept this A&R plan for 71 Mason Road, Assessors Map 114, Parcel 10. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you for your time.
David, like to
We need the
sign that?
signatures, don't we?
Want to sign that plan?
This one here? That one there, I can do that.
It's got the Mylar, and we'll need 3 signed paper copies. You want to spin your pen? Did you sign the Mylar?
I got that on paper, don't I?
Yes. Cross out that note, as you get there on the paper.
Whole thing, right?
And the top line, I think, is also.
Okay, these 2 copies were good?
We need 3 paper copies. You're fine. The Mylar. This is the Mylar, right? can take the Mylar.
Very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Discussion of preliminary plan, Butler's Way for 6 lots with access off JB Ave. How you doing?
Good evening. My name is Peter Lavoy. I work with Summit Engineering. I'm here tonight representing Westcott Custom Homes. With me tonight is Scott Butler, sorry.
Evening?
So I have revised plans. I did receive a letter from Graves yesterday, and I revised the plans. So I don't know if I wanted to hand those out. I brought 3 large copies,
Thank you.
and I brought 7 of the 11 by 17. The
Okay.
11 by 17s have a colored plan.
That's appreciated. Yeah.
Would you all like a large copy or a small copy?
Small copy's fine for me.
Copy, yeah.
Could you give us just a brief rundown? I know we talked about this last month, but
Okay,
just
no,
for
no
the,
problem.
appreciate it.
Yep. So the property is located off of JB Ave. JB runs along the side of the page. We have 1 JB here and 3 JB right here. There is an existing driveway where the road is proposed. If you go out there now, there is a driveway for 3 JB Drive. Basically, the lot is wooded. It's roughly 3.3 acres in size. It is in a Res 15, which basically is 15,000 square foot lots and 100 foot of frontage for each of these lots. So what we're proposing, well, basically also the parcel slopes from JB back towards the back corner of the lot. So Sherman Ave runs along the top of the page here. So basically topography slopes towards the back. So what we want to do is we want to construct a 400-foot cul-de-sac right here. The roadway would be 26 foot wide. The cul-de-sac diameter is a 50-foot diameter. Let's see, we have sewer in JB that we're gonna tie into. We're gonna bring in the sewer to station 300 right there. Basically what happens right there, the topography drops off, so the lots 3, 4, and 5 will have individual pumps that will pump up to the manhole, and 6, 1, and 2 will be fed gravity towards there. We have a water line that runs down to the end of the cul-de-sac, and there's a proposed hydrant at the end, right there. There is also another hydrant on JB Drive, I think right in front of number 5 on the opposite side of the street. Proposed drainage. We have a high point right here where the existing, well, where this driveway is going to be constructed. So there's a high point here. It slopes towards JB. So we have curbing on this first 140 feet. And we're proposing 2 catch basins to collect that runoff so it doesn't go out into JB. So we'll collect that runoff that's generated, very small drainage area. That will be collected and brought back and discharged into a swale and then into a basin in the back corner. From that driveway to the end of the cul-de-sac, we're doing low-impact development or country drainage. One, because we're limited with area on the right-of-way, because we only have a 40-foot strip along the front. And two, groundwater seems to be high. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep that basin not deep, because if I put a catch basin in at the low point, then you have to have 3 feet of cover for your pipe, so then that'll just make that basin deeper. So that's the reason why I'm kind of doing country drainage, because I'm trying to keep my drainage above groundwater. So that's why we propose country drainage from this point down. And it is a very small drainage area that this is collecting. And that's gonna be swaled down and then into this basin here. And then the outlet's gonna discharge, not a concentrated flow, there's like a little settling pond after with a level spreader, so that'll kind of fill up and then sheet flow, because we don't want to create that concentrated flow. So that's basically the proposal. The six lots have the required frontage. Lots 1 and 2 are roughly 15,000. Lot 3 is roughly 17,000. 4 is 26,000, and then 5 and 6 are roughly, 23,500 average, those 2 lots. So we do meet the area.
There's no wetlands back here at all,
Yeah,
correct?
there are no wetlands on the property.
Okay.
We had someone go out and look at it. So, we did meet with this person here at 3, because, the proposed roadway is coming in at their driveway. We did meet with her. She wanted, if we could ask, right now we show 26, she was hoping that the roadway could be smaller, because there are a couple nice big trees on both sides, so if we could reduce the sides. We didn't ask for that waiver. She was wondering if we could just suggest if we could go down smaller for the roadway. We are proposing a 1-foot-high retaining wall right here, because we can't meet the grade. There is no grading easements, that's the problem. We have a 40-foot strip with no grading easements on either side, so we have to meet the grades along that property line. So I can go through the waivers that I'm requesting and reasons why. That's a big one there.
Yeah, if you could do that real quick, that would be
Oh,
appreciated.
yeah, no problem, I can do that. Okay, so the first waiver would be rounding. Because of the way the lot is configured, it just comes to basically comes right to a right angle. So we don't have the ability to put the proposed roundings on the roadway for the right-of-way. So we did do the best we could for the curbing, but the property line comes right to a 90 degree. So we are asking for that waiver because that's what we're limited to. That was the first waiver.
It's on both sides, correct?
On both sides, correct. The road construction, the cross-section, we're asking for a waiver on that because we're limited. One, we only have a 40-foot right-of-way, so we cannot meet that 50-foot.
Yep.
So we have a 40-foot right-of-way, and then, we're trying to put in the roadway, and then, we don't have the room to meet the grading. So that was another reason why we were asking for that cross-section to be kind of shaped for our situation. Because we have a retaining wall on this side to meet that grade, but we can meet the grade here if we can grade in the grass strip. So that's why the last waiver, which is the sidewalks, where we don't have room for sidewalks, so that's why we're asking for that waiver as well. There are no sidewalks in the neighborhood as it is, so you'd have a sidewalk that goes to nowhere. So the right of way. And then the open space, so the open space, we're asking for a waiver on the open space area. The minimum area would be an acre, and that's almost half of the parcel. So we only have a 3.3 acre right now, so if we took half of that and put aside an area for a park, which there is nothing, there's no sidewalks in the neighborhood, there's just a neighborhood here. So that's why we're asking for that waiver as well. So those are the 5 waivers that we would be asking for. And then if the board wanted to take into account a reduction, we would write up another waiver for the reduction of pavement if we could. I just don't know how the board, if the board would like to, how much they would like to reduce that. Right now, we meet the 26-foot wide.
I only have 4 waivers listed here. Rounding at the intersection, the roadway going from 50 down to 40, no sidewalks, and the open space. Which one did I miss?
The road cross-section,
Okay, and what's going to happen there?
so what the road cross-section would be, it doesn't meet the typical, so it's not, there's no sidewalk, there's no grass strip, and then, there's no curbing down on the bottom side. We're doing
I
that
understand
country
now.
drainage, so that would be a waiver on the road cross-section.
Okay.
I mean, I could also go through the letter from Graves. I did the changes to the plan, if you want, the 13 comments.
You all have a copy of that in tab C of your binder?
It was dated September 8th.
Okay.
Nope, you want me to go through that?
Sure.
Okay. So the first one was Lot 6. The building factor was the 23.73. So basically what I did is I adjusted Lot 6 to fix it, so now it meets the building factor. And on the proposed lot table over here on the lower right corner, I added the building factor to the table. So you can see all the building factors for the lots. If you look on the lower right corner, it says proposed lot table. So I added that table to the plan. Number 2, I revised, must have been changing the property lines when I was drafting, so I revised the side lines, so the setbacks are correct now, they're 15 feet. Number 3, the waiver regarding the road cross-section regarding the low-impact development in the country drainage. A lot of towns ask for this low impact because they feel that this is cheaper for the town to maintain. It's just basically cutting grass and cleaning any debris in the swale instead of getting a clamshell or a vat to clean out the catch basins. So,
If I could take it back to number 1 just real quick.
yep.
So is the comment from Graves in error, or did something get changed to
I
correct
had
it?
to fix it. I had to fix
Okay,
that. It was that 23.73.
and what was the revision?
The
it
revision,
fixed?
right now, it is 19.61.
And how did you come
Revised it.
upon the
Yep.
19.61 as opposed to the 23.73?
It's less than the 23. You have to be less than the 23 for the building
I'm just
factor.
not understanding how that number was achieved. What change was made?
Before, this line came straight up, so it was like a narrow
Okay, so you
alley.
moved it over.
So I just opened it up.
Understood.
So it would affect 5, but 5 is fine too. 5 is 14.49.
Understood, thank you.
No problem. So number 4, well, number 3 is the cross-section, and Graves goes through the comments regarding why they feel that the low-impact development is not the right way to go, and catch basins are, but, I feel that cost would be less to maintain the swales. B, I just feel that the swales, your swales are starting here, not in the narrow portion of that, so I just feel that we can also put an easement along the outside of the right-of-way if the swales are an issue with that. We could put an easement in there and just keep that swale
Well,
there.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
your comment about the maintenance, it's interesting because I'm reading what the engineer wrote here. It says, "A drainage system consisting of a berm/curb and catch basins is more advantageous than roadside swales for the following reasons. Reason number 1, the maintenance of roadside swales is more time-consuming than the maintenance of catch basins. Accumulated sediment is more easily removed from catch basins," which is exactly the opposite of
What
what
I
you just
said.
said.
correct. I mean, I've had other towns asked me to do swales instead of catch basins because they feel hiring a vac truck or a clamshell is more cost than going out there and just
So
cleaning.
I would agree with what Graves says here, which is that we should definitely solicit input from the highway department on this issue, because I'd like to hear what exactly our highway department would think of that.
Just for your information, we have 45 days
Yep.
from the date of submission, so that would, I think, put us up to September 26th. So you would have the ability to continue this to the next meeting if you wanted more time and wanted to get comments from other departments.
Well, this is a preliminary plan, correct? So, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, and we would contact the DPW too, because
Yep.
like you said, we just got this letter. We can contact them too.
So what's in the bottom of the swale?
It's just a grass swale, that's it.
It's just basically, it's a cupped area to both sides of the road, grass grows in it.
Yeah, water goes into the grass swale, and because the swale is gonna be like 1.5%,
Yeah,
it gives that, you get your total suspended solid removal, like any kind of sand or anything would go in there, and it would, as it slowly goes down the grass swale, the sand kind of just spreads out, or any kind of, debris would go into the swale.
so ideally, the swales would be wider, but it says, item B, Graves says, the narrower right-of-way width of 40 feet makes the installation and maintenance of swales more difficult than the standard 50-foot right-of-way. So I'm assuming he's saying, because you're trying to fit this all into 40 feet now, your swales are gonna be narrower than ideal?
Right, I mean, they're gonna be a 3-foot wide swale, I mean, how wide, I don't know how wide, what's the best width of a swale, but we could, like I said, we could add an easement along the right-of-way to if wider swales were needed, we could do that.
But then the road gets narrower, correct?
No, the road wouldn't get narrower,
Would come into the lot.
the easement, it would go onto the private property, there would be like a utility easement that runs along the outside of the right-of-way. I mean, the swales haven't been designed, but that's what that's what we want to propose.
they'd have a pipe going underneath each driveway?
Right, each driveway would have a pipe going under it. And that was another comment, I
Yep.
think, that
Yeah, the next one,
number
yep.
C. But we came up, it's such a small drainage area that's gonna be going there. There would be all the pipes would be sized. We could do like little drop inlets prior to each driveway, or we could just, an 8-inch line because of the drainage area. Maybe down here, down in the bottom 2 driveways where the grades drop off, that might be a 12-inch, but in that area, it's not gonna affect, you'll be able to get the cover over the pipe. And you can use different type of pipe. You could use a ductile iron pipe under the driveway, so you don't need as much cover.
So where he's talking about 2.5 feet of depth required for ground cover for the pipes, you're saying that that's not necessarily the
No,
case?
I don't think so. I think, like I said, I haven't sized the pipes yet, but we could use a ductile iron pipe under, the driveway here, because
Yeah.
this driveway is at basically the high point here, so that wouldn't need a pipe, because there's gonna be no swale over this location here, because the high point's here. This is going this way into those catch basins at the road. So there would be no swale in this location, but from this driveway here down, that's where the swale starts. So these 2 driveways, it's because it's such a small drainage area, you could have an 8-inch ductile iron pipe, so you can basically, you don't really need a lot of, you only need like a foot of cover over, you really don't even need that, but a foot of cover over the pipe there, and you could use an 8-inch pipe.
Can I ask a question? Because I'm trying to wrap my head around 2 catch basins at JB Ave,
Yep, right here.
piped back all the way back to the proposed basin, Why not just put the catch basins in and pick them up off of that line?
Off of this, you mean put the catch basins in over here?
Yeah, and
Well, see, the problem is the grade is low here, so if you put catch basins in, it lowers everything by 3 feet automatically, because you have to have 3 feet of cover. And then you have a sump, and then,
over the pipe in the catch basin?
Yeah.
Okay.
so then that just so then what happens is this swale then becomes a very deep swale, and then the basin back here would be deeper. You know, you're looking at maybe like a 4.5 foot deep basin. Right now, this is 2.5.
Okay.
That's the reasoning, and then, you know, we haven't done any soil testing, and we have an idea that we feel that soil testing is gonna be high, because, we talked to, a couple neighbors, and they said they have sump pumps, they have water problems, so that's another reason why we're trying to keep the basin up, so we can meet the stormwater standards.
And the two catch basins there tie into JB, don't they?
No, they come back, but
They come back?
the grade is so much higher. So the grade up here is roughly 631, but the grade down here is 627, so it's a 4-foot grade difference. So by the time this pipe gets here, this is basically almost at grade, because this is going so flat.
So the catch basins on JB run the length of the Butler Way
Correct.
and then empty into this,
Into
this
the
swale.
Right at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Okay. All right.
So who and how do you determine the swale size?
Well, when we do the drainage analysis, we have to size it with the drainage area that goes there.
So worst case, you'll do that easement if need be.
Right, in the worst case, we could add like a 5-foot easement, so then that swale could get bigger. Right now, it's roughly 3 feet wide, the way it's shown, but if we added 5 feet, then you could go to a 6-foot swale. So you could add 3 feet to it where you needed.
Item number 5 on Graves. Comments.
Okay, number
Did-
5.
yep.
I added the note on the plan. It just basically says total area is 3.3 acres and lot is wooded.
You're showing trees on the,
Yep,
Plan
on the-
there,
on this
concept plan.
buffer. We're gonna try to preserve a buffer around the outside.
okay.
Dan, can we back up to?
Yep.
Item E? Can you explain his comment there on the hydrant?
Yeah, the swale, there's that hydrant in the back, we would just swale around it.
Around
so
it?
The hydrant would stay close to the road, and then the swale would go around the back of the hydrant. And
And
we would talk to the fire chief to make sure that would be,
that was my next question, if fire approved, because that's a narrow radius.
the radius up here,
No, at the cul-de-sac.
the cul-de-sac. I think that's the required. This should be the required radius here, and the bubble should be the
Okay.
required.
That would be for fire to comment on anyway.
There was a comment from the fire department in your package.
In this,
Yes, it's towards the end of the material. It says, "Fire department has reviewed plans for the proposed road development named Butler's Way off JB Ave. We take no exception to the proposal. A single fire hydrant is sufficient for the length of roadway. Roadway width and cul-de-sac radius is all sufficient for department apparatus to navigate through."
perfect.
Graves, comment number 7, about the 325 feet of space in between the existing sewer.
Yep, so I relocated that sewer up to station 300. It was at 325, I moved it
Okay.
up to 300.
That's where the
Basically,
pump station is.
yeah, I just basically adjusted those force mains, and I kind of gave that one a little angle for the gravity, so that's fine. Number 8,
Where is that station 1 plus 40?
so basically right at the driveway here.
Okay.
Because that's station 100 right there, and then station 150 is basically right there. So I would say right at that driveway.
Okay, so that's, so if I read this correctly, you're talking about a berm on both sides of the roads up to that point, and then it transitions into this
Correct.
country drainage system?
Yep, so to the curbing goes up to the high point, then it would transition into no curbing from this point down, so the sheet flow would just go off into the swale.
So comment 8, that's just a,
Comment
Quick
8,
change.
I adjusted the front of the roadway, the sewer and water were too close, so I made sure it was 10 feet.
all right, we talked about 9 already.
10, he was talking about the basin. Basically, I wouldn't, we have a couple different options that we're looking at, we're looking at doing that level spreader, and then, we haven't finalized the drainage, but, we would look into other options as well.
Will there be a permanent pool in that basin?
There shouldn't be, it would draw down within 72 hours, because that's what, stormwater management requires.
Okay.
It requires that basin does not hold water after 72 hours.
Does it need to have a fence around it?
It's 2.5 feet deep, so that
Not
would be,
really.
that would be up to the town.
Okay.
Who maintains that basin?
I would think once the road is accepted, then the town
The town
would
would.
maintain it. The basin is needed because you're adding the roadway, the buildings and the driveway, which is impervious, so.
So, number 11 is just a
Just
administrative thing?
revise the note.
Yep.
Same as 12, I revised the scale on the profile sheet, so the profile sheet, which is the second sheet, or the third one, if you're looking at the 11 by 17s, it wasn't scaled. And then 13, we would have to go in front of, we would go in front of the water department and sewer department for the proposed buildings.
So this is a, go on, Steve.
I was just kind of chuckling here. I was reading number 11 and trying to figure out what it was. So the initial plan that you submitted, it's a definitive up
Yeah,
there?
by accident.
Oh, okay. Wasn't trying to pull a fast one.
No.
I did mention this plan to the water and sewer superintendent today, and he would like to talk to you sooner rather than later, so
Okay.
he could express his comments to you.
These things
Okay.
scare me.
I know, my mind's ready to fall.
So Bill, with the preliminary plan, are we approving all the waivers immediately, or are we waiting to the definitive plan to approve those? What's the process that we're
Well,
going through? What's
yeah,
being
the-
asked of us?
No, you wouldn't be formally approving the waivers, but you would be providing an indication to the engineer that you would be amenable to approving them later on when you get the definitive plan.
Okay,
If you think you would be opposed to them, you're better off to let him know now.
Yep.
So that he could take that into account in his design.
so as you know, there's actually 5 members of the board. 2 of us aren't present tonight, and 2 of the members are going to take, just knowing what they've been doing for the past, their time in office, there's going to be some opposition to the rounding at the intersection and the no sidewalks. I forget the name of the program that the town is getting into.
Complete streets.
Complete Streets. So Richard brought that up last time.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about the
Yep.
sidewalks. And
So just to get my 2 cents out there, I realize this is an awfully tight site. I looked at the tax assessor's plan, and I think there are 2 lots to the Plan West that were larger, they didn't have any buildings on them. I'm assuming they weren't selling. That would have made it a little bit, would have given you a little bit more room for possibly the cul-de-sac, but doesn't solve the problem with the driveway and the access that you have at the beginning there. Again, it is a tight site. It is in a subdivision that's already been built. It's been standing for a long time without sidewalks, with other houses. You know, it's a Res 15, so there's obviously they're close to each other. If this was a street with, 15, 20 houses on it, I see there would be more of a need, in my opinion, for sidewalks to make sure that cross-section is quote-unquote correct. I understand, though, the reasons why they're being asked for, and I can see the logic behind that.
I'm more concerned about the drainage.
The only concern I would have about the drainage is that once the water is in the proposed basin, where is it going to? But that's what engineers are for. They figure out that it's basically going to be in that long enough for the groundwater for the ground to accept it. As you stated, they got 72 hours to get that water out of there, and the soil tests haven't been done yet.
I guess I'm coming at it more from a standpoint of the maintenance that's going to be, that the town's going to be on the hook for after the system's, after the developer's long gone, quite frankly, because I'm looking at the notes here that somebody's going to have to maintain all of those pipes that go underneath those driveways, that there's going to be more difficulty maintaining the swales because of the design of the changed dimensions of the swale, because of that's necessitated by how much room is there. And Dan, you asked, who's going to maintain that basin.
Yep.
So I really would like to hear what the highway department thinks.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only concern about the swale would be, what is the chance of any kind of erosion along the side of the road where
Yeah.
you have pavement issues in 5 years where the pavement starts to crack and fall apart, and now
If they in
instead of
fact end
24
up having
feet,
to
you've
be
got 21
2.5
feet.
feet deep, that's, you're talking about a narrow 2.5 deep foot trench. I don't know at what point a swale becomes a trench, but
But to what I was saying earlier, if there was 12 houses on here and you had a couple thousand feet or, 800 feet, which is usually dead end or so of water flowing down there, I'd be a little bit more concerned. There's basically 2 houses on either side of the road where this is going and flowing.
So is it that there's not enough room for a retention pond? Is that why you can't put in a conventional drainage system with storm drains?
It's all related to the
No,
driveway
it's,
getting in.
it's regarding groundwater. I'm trying not, like, if I put a catch basin, normally I would put a double catch basin in the back at the end of the cul-de-sac. This whole road is sloping down, I would only have to put a double there. But once I put a double in there, the catch basin rim, you go down 3 feet. I think there's gonna be a groundwater issue there. So once you go in 3 feet, that makes this, then you have to bring it all the way down here. That's like 150 feet. That's another foot. So you're automatically 4 feet lower than you were here. And then the grade here is at 627. I don't know, that's like 627. You go down 625, 624.
But just getting back to Dan's point, I don't think it's an issue with the width at the beginning there, because at the beginning is where the Cape Cod berms are gonna be, and that water runs back to a catch basin on JB, correct?
Correct.
So what we're really talking about is starting at that station 1 plus 40, that's the high point, right?
That is the high point. Yeah, because I'm trying to match, I can match the grade on one side and just put a small little retaining wall here. So I'm trying to keep the road up. And then I'm trying to slope down with the grade there, so.
So are you saying that you're suggesting at point 140 of making everything wider so that we can get the swales,
Yeah.
quote, correct?
Yeah.
Like I said, this was our idea on trying to overcome our groundwater issue. And if we have to look at something different, then we'll have to look at something different. I might be able to put a catch basin higher up. If the board doesn't like the swales, that's why we're here. So I could put a pair of catch basins here, and then maybe just do an opening at the end of the cul-de-sac so the water flows straight off, this will all be curbed, and there could be an opening right here, and the water would just slope down and out. I can do that. I can, like I said, this was my idea on trying, because a lot of towns like country drainage, so that's why I went with this. But I can relook at it and do a standard, I can come up with something to make it work. And I haven't done soil testing yet.
Yeah, I think I'd feel better with,
It seems like the board doesn't like the country drainage. That's why we're here. So I'll have to go back and look at,
well, I think our concern from hearing the other members is the maintenance involved down the road. And you keep saying high groundwater, so my concern is once it all drains into this basin, is it gonna drain? You
that's
know?
why the basin stays up high. That's why this basin right now is at existing grade. So if there is high groundwater, it's not gonna be out of the ground. You're gonna be a minimum 3 feet below would be groundwater.
I can't see on this locus here because it's so tiny, but so I can't tell you what the name of the street is here, but you've got
Sherman.
these existing lots, Asauka, Golemo.
That's Sherman, that's Sherman up there, right?
Sherman.
Okay.
Sherman runs along the top.
Yeah, so the topography, if it keeps
Shepherd.
going down that way, that obviously the concern for those people would be, how's this gonna affect how the water runs towards their properties?
Correct, right, and there must be drainage in Sherman as well, so like, there are, we have to look at other options. So if we could, this is, this right here should be designed to meet stormwater management, and then we'll look at, like I said, we will look at other options.
Is there some kind of structure on that property there on what,
The square that's in the
Yeah, that's a
proposed.
shed. I think that's a shed from an abutter.
okay.
How does the board feel about the sidewalks?
Well, I'm wondering, you got a 26-foot wide road here. That seems kind of excessive for a 6-lot subdivision. Would it help if the board, would consider a waiver to a 22 or 24-foot wide road? Maybe would provide some room for a sidewalk if you had a narrower.
Well, I
paved
see it
road?
as a catch-22. We're trying to get the road and the right-of-way wider to make the swales better, but at the same time, we're trying to get it smaller to get the sidewalks. I share your opinion with a 26-foot roadway pretty much, or even if we get down to 24, like the one Butter wanted, there's 6 houses there. I don't see any large problem or a huge problem with getting, school children to the end of the road or anything else. Any problem with bicycles? I mean, quite frankly, anybody, only people who are going to be on that road are the people who are going to live there. If they're driving like fools, what can you say? They should be going nice and slow anyway, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'd feel better keeping a road as wide as we can with no sidewalks rather than,
Trying to squeeze one in there.
like he said, you could have a sidewalk going to nowhere.
Yep.
There's no sidewalks anywhere around there.
And if our complete streets allows us to start building sidewalks in JB, then I would say well, maybe we have something else to think about, but I don't think that's going to be possible either. I mean, that road's small. There's no room for anything there either.
Yeah.
With a length of only 400 feet, traffic won't be going very fast down that road, so.
They shouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the stormwater drainage than I am about the sidewalks. I would have to agree there.
Would you want to get input from other town departments before any kind of a redesign, or do you want to look at other options first?
I think it would be useful to have other departments comment on the proposed plan.
What's going on in our highway department? Are we still in a state of flux?
Vinnie is working part-time now.
Okay,
He's retiring in October,
yeah,
so he's back on a part-time basis.
okay. Well, then I would definitely, yeah. Vinnie's a veteran. I would love to
Right.
hear what he has, what his thoughts are on on this type of a system.
I just gave him a
And
copy. of
especially, I
Jeff's
would
letter.
want to make sure that he's aware of, not only are we talking about this type of system, but also an altered version of it where the swales would be narrower than ideal. I mean, basically, have him look at these notes from Graves and give his input on this.
So we could have
'Cause
Peter
he's a town.
contact.
I know he's been in town forever, so
Right.
even when he leaves that position, I know he's gonna care about
Mhm.
his tax dollars being spent on these kind of maintenance issues. So if he doesn't, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if he gave his blessing on this, I would feel much more comfortable.
So if you don't mind waiting until our next meeting in 2 weeks, we can ask, Vinnie to get some comments to us and try to...
I can contact Vinnie, and then I can go back and look at, I can see that there's concerns, so I can look at the.
I just hate to have you go through a redesign if
No,
other
I
town
mean,
departments
it's
are...
just good to, get the final, so I know how to go forward. That's what we're here for, so I just want to get the answer and then go forward.
Yeah.
So,
And if you would contact George Petrinos, the water and sewer superintendent as well.
I will, okay.
Yeah, so we'll get their comments, we'll meet again in 2 weeks and discuss briefly, and then I'm hoping that we'll be able to give you all kinds of thumbs up for the preliminary, and we can go from there.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds
Do I
good.
speak
Yep.
correctly?
Yep.
All right. So appreciate your time, appreciate the plans.
Thank you for your
Yep.
comments.
All right, moving on to number 4, Lions Estates. We have a request to substitute the HDPE pipe in lieu of to request the substitution of the reinforced concrete with HDPE
Thank you.
as a substitute.
And I got a comment from Jeff Walsh today, it's in tab D,
Okay,
about this request.
evening.
Good evening. Tom Ravane from Developing Lions Estates. Would like to just request the board's input on replacing the RCP like we had just stated with the ADS pipe to, in the drainage part of our project.
All right, the only question I have, it seems like everything's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Easy substitution, HDPE is used all the time. My only question is, why was the reinforced concrete put in the plans if there was no intent to use it?
The original, I had asked that to the original engineer, as well as Jeff, I spoke with that. They tried to keep the original plan that was approved back in
2005.
2005, I believe. That was
Okay.
drawn on the original plan, so instead of trying to so-called ruffle the feathers with all kinds of changes in the plan, they just made some modifications on the plan to get it through.
Yep.
And then when we purchased the property, we had the plans all approved, looking at, what we're developing the property, obviously would like to use the ADS pipe as opposed to the concrete pipe. It's,
So you weren't involved with the project at that time? You
No,
purchased
not at
after
all.
the fact?
no,
Yep.
no, we purchased it after it was all approved through the board.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No, and I'm assuming you're gonna use what he's suggesting here, the contractor uses dual wall HDPE.
Yep. I did get a spec sheet, in case anyone's interested. I got the spec sheet from supplier, but it's a standard
Yep.
pipe.
I don't have a problem with this.
The highway superintendent has no problem with using the plastic pipe as long as it's double-walled
Yep.
and has a smooth bore inside, which I
Yep.
think is consistent with Jeff's concern as well.
I did speak with Jeff about it as well.
Okay.
No questions?
No questions.
You guys want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the change of the concrete pipe to the HDPE pipe, plastic pipe, as proposed.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to replace the reinforced concrete pipe with a dual-wall HDPE pipe for Lions Estates. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
All right. All right, moving on to number 5, review and possible vote on the draft complete streets policy. I have to unfortunately admit, I did not read through all of this.
I did not either.
Want to just give us a quick rundown, Bill?
Sure. So the town is interested in becoming a complete streets community. The state has a 3-phase process in order to become a complete streets community. This document, the policy, is the first step, which has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen. And it sets forth the town's commitment to implement complete streets principles wherever feasible and appropriate whenever the town undertakes roadway construction projects or new roadways are built in town. And it's intended to promote use of roadways by all forms of transportation, including bicyclists, pedestrians, physically handicapped, transit services where appropriate, so that whenever there's a new street proposed or a redesign, the attempt would be made to implement complete streets principles to promote greater use by all segments of the public in using the streets. So this document really sets forth the town's commitment to design its roadways whenever roadways are being designed to conform to the state's guidelines for what constitutes complete streets. In addition, we've identified on page 1, on the bottom paragraph, the priority locations, and those would be the corridors providing primary access to significant destinations such as parks, schools, commercial areas, etc. 2 corridors providing important continuity and connectivity links to existing pedestrian or bicycle networks. And 3 in the town's villages and historic districts where there's traditionally more pedestrian activity because of the high density of development in these areas. There are a number of exemptions that are provided here so that if it's not possible in certain locations because of the existing configuration or it doesn't appear to be appropriate in certain locations, there's ways for the to be exempted from this policy. And I think that would be something that, and as it says in that opening paragraph under exemptions, it would have to be approved by the planning board and the Board of Selectmen if there was going to be an exemption from a complete streets principle. And then it references various manuals and documents from the state that identify where complete streets principles can be found, including the Architectural Access Board regulations for handicap compliance, the APA, American Planning Association, complete streets policies. And importantly for the planning board, this document identifies this board as the Complete Streets Committee. So it would fall to you to oversee this program. When new streets are being designed, we'd want to be sure that the board is fully supportive of the design, that it does comply with these kinds of standards and principles. So it does carve out a role for you, which would entail some additional work on your part.
Yep.
But I know you're very concerned about roads in town, and I think this would enable you to have quite a bit of influence in terms of how the roadways are designed and built in town. So once this policy is, I think, supported by the planning board and then adopted by the Board of Selectmen, it would have to go to the DOT for approval. If it meets their criteria, it would be approved. If not, it would come back for revisions, and then it could be resubmitted. Once it's approved, the town would work with the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission to develop a prioritization plan, which has to be at least 15 locations in town where it's appropriate to add new sidewalks or crosswalks, do traffic management measures to slow traffic or whatever the the recommendations might be. So that would be a document that this board, I think, would be very interested in reviewing and commenting on, so that that plan could be approved. And then, out of those 15 locations, the town would be able to apply for funding for construction of the highest priority locations to actually see some improvements on the ground that would be consistent with the prioritization plan. So it seems to be a good way for the town to work on its road network and try to make things more pedestrian-friendly, safer for bicyclists, and for motorists as well.
Was there a template for this, or did we come up with this ourselves?
I would say that yes, there've been templates. CMRPC actually developed this document with some input from myself. So yes, they didn't start from scratch. They had something to work from.
And then after the DOT approves this, does it become part of our bylaws, or where does it get put into the,
No, it's a policy,
just a policy?
right? So it has no permanent standing or requirements attached to it other than
Okay.
to try to implement this wherever possible.
Policies are more difficult to enforce than regulations, right?
How are the 15 locations, how is that determined? And
I think, probably we talk to the highway department and others in town to develop an initial list. We certainly welcome your feedback. We could schedule a meeting before the planning board so you would have the opportunity to identify some of your own locations that you would like to see included. So anything that somebody suggests that has some validity could be added to the plan. There's no preset list of projects that will be identified and sort of figured out as you go along.
That was one question I had, is that on the second page, second paragraph, the superintendent of the highway department will use best judgment regarding the desirability and feasibility of applying complete streets principles for routine roadway maintenance projects such as repaving, restriping, and so forth. Then the third page, we have the planning board will act as town complete streets committee. So almost makes a contradiction there. Who would be making decisions? Is it just for the initial? Is the planning board the committee for all, new projects and implementation and policy, and the superintendent of the highway department for all existing?
No, I think
Well, I think it's identifying a partnership really with a number of boards and departments in town. So I think we'd all want to work together on it to
Yep.
try to,
That's the best way, so that's
Right.
good.
I was gonna say, the way I read it is that they're just giving the superintendent of the highway department, that he's in charge of, where it says complete streets, principles of routine roadway maintenance projects. So I think that's just for that, such as repaving, restriping. I think in all other aspects, the planning board would be the determining. Well, I had a question about, like, for instance, exemptions. Who is the determining body that would decide whether or not a project, qualifies for an exemption? For instance, take for example, if we had already adopted the Complete Streets program and this Butler Way came before us, I would say that I would want to make the argument that Butler Way would be exempt from the Complete Streets program based on number 4. It says cost or impacts of accommodation are excessively disproportionate to the need of probable future use. We were talking about sidewalks nowhere. Why put the expense of sidewalks in if they're not going to really be beneficial? So my question would be, is the planning board the one who makes that decision?
well, in that case, yes, because it's a subdivision. But I think when the town is designing roads, I think it would be helpful if the designer came to to the planning board to talk about the complete streets concepts that you think would be appropriate for the roads to try to influence the design.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that, you know, like on a larger subdivision where you can have a large roadway neighborhood, you can have multiple roads maybe coming off of a whole new main road and everything, then obviously we all want sidewalks on both sides of the road and all of the other great things that come along with that. I just want to make sure that if we move forward with endorsing the Complete Streets program, that we don't run into a situation where, I don't want to get into a situation where we're kind of hamstrung and have to force some of these requirements of Complete Streets onto some of these really small projects like this that really wouldn't benefit from it.
You know, it's not really, you know, requiring the town to do this in every case. It's really where it makes sense and is feasible and can be done without excessive cost, then sure, you'd want to try to promote it. So it's really just letting designers know that, yes, the town supports these ideas and to try to implement where practical.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah, big picture, I find it to be a good document. I think it's squared away. This is that something that we need to vote on or to have, pass on
Yes,
to the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, I think it would be appropriate for the board to endorse this document so that the selectmen would have that on record, that the planning board is supportive of the program.
do we want to wait for a full board to do that, or are we comfortable with?
It's a good question. I mean, if we're expecting the full board in 2 weeks, we have time?
I don't think Lou will be back. I think he said he'd be back at the end of
Oh, that's right.
September or early October.
All right.
Yeah, so if it's all right with the other members of the board, I just assume wait for at least one more member to come back and,
I know Richard was very interested in this, so I have
yeah.
no problem waiting an additional 2 weeks. As long as we have time, Bill, there's no rush on this?
Correct.
Yep. And then we'll keep this on the agenda for next time. All right, moving on to standard business, we have the discussion status report on finishing construction of and acceptance of uncompleted, unaccepted subdivision streets, including, any updates at all on these?
I sent you Jeff Walsh's site inspection report for Pierpont, which showed the walls for the culvert at the stream crossing.
Yep.
So I think the developer then is, you know, obviously working on the next phase of Pierpont Estates so that he can make that crossing and then access a couple of the vacant lots, or a couple of the lots that exist beyond that point. So I think he's gone about as far as he can in terms of getting lot releases from the planning board for portions of the road that have been built. So before he can get any more lots released, he's got to put in the crossing and then build the road, you know, along the proposed lots in order to get access. So I think he's very interested in trying to do some additional work so that he can get some more lot releases to keep his cash flow coming, so he can actually complete the work. So Jeff, I think, will, you know, had done that inspection report, wanted you to be aware of where it stood. And Tony's been away for a while, so I don't know when he's coming back, but I'm assuming he'd want to try to get this in sometime in the fall so that he
So is this crossing something that we're gonna have a chance to approve, or?
Well, it's been approved already, the design. Obviously, the construction would be up to Jeff to make sure it conforms to the specs.
That was more the question, yeah, so,
Right. Yep.
I have a vague recollection of that whole discussion.
Right.
Way back when. Does Phase 1 have any trees planted yet?
What's that?
Wasn't there a discussion we had about that Phase 1, that there was supposed to be some trees planted that weren't done? And then it seems like every time it come up again, there was some reason why it wasn't done. And then I think we had a discussion about how we really wanted to start to try and hold some people's feet to the fire about making sure you complete, you know, all of what you said you were gonna do in this phase before you move on to the next phase, or, you know, in these larger subdivisions. Which I know we haven't had to deal with any really large subdivisions in a while, but, you know, if things continue going the way they're going, based on what we're starting to see here, might not be that long before we start to see another big one. So, I guess if there's any items in phase one that still haven't been taken care of, I'm not gonna really look too favorably to any more lot releases or anything until I start to see some movement about it. And I don't wanna hear about how, you know, I don't know, I want those things done.
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, we're talking about phase three, I think, and when items in phase one haven't been completed, it's kind of a little bit discouraging. There's also some items in the Graves report about this crossing that seem to be not 100% in conformance, if I remember correctly from reading it. So there's going to be some back and forth as to making sure that it is correct and making sure that we...
You might have to go back and review the notes from those early meetings, because I remember we were hammering out that whole issue about that crossing, how much was gonna have to be completed, or what height it was, or, I remember something vaguely
Correct.
about that.
Okay.
And if what you're reading in there, Dan, it sounds to me like maybe it's not quite where it's supposed to be, or,
Yeah, I have to check my notes, but I remember that we were requiring the crossing to have a certain percentage or a certain portion of it had to be complete when the lots directly adjacent to it. But on the finished side, were being released. We didn't talk about any lots after that, I don't think.
right?
I think there's a problem with some zoning on some of them. But to your point, yes, we're gonna wanna make sure that this crossing is complete and in conformance before any other lots are released. That's my feeling. And then, when that time comes, we also need to start talking about completing phase one and phase two.
Okay.
Any other updates?
Nothing on Rocky Hill. On Piastre Road, I've been in contact with the developer. I sent him Jeff's inspection report from a few years ago, which had just some minor issues that needed to be completed. So they're working on finishing those up. They are interested in providing the as-built plans and moving forward with street acceptance at the annual town meeting in the spring. So hopefully we can, you know, push that along and get that road accepted by the town. Country View Estates, Eisenhower Drive, we are still working on the sewer pump station. We've had a contractor come out, and he's providing an estimate for the work to put in rails into the station to examine the pumps. We think one of the pumps either needs to be repaired or replaced. So the current phase will look at that pump, see what the issue is, and have a recommendation as to what to do about it. The developer is still committed to working with the town on making sure that that pump station gets rectified from the previous deficiencies. And he also indicated a desire to get that road accepted at the annual town meeting in the spring. So I think the pump station is sort of the last issue that needs to be resolved to get that up to speed so the sewer department can accept it.
So is it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had already talked about that they had raised the level of the
Yes.
the tank or whatever there, so that the water intrusion problem was now resolved, and now it's just a matter of making sure that that pump that was overtaxed previously is gonna be okay, and
Yes.
that the thinking is that it might need to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
And the developer's working with the town on that, so.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
So we hope to get that quote in probably late this week, early next week. We'll talk to the developer. The Water and Sewer Department has indicated they're willing to do some cost sharing, I think on the alarm system in particular,
Okay.
so that we'll be working hopefully together. At last check, there was about $16,000 left in escrow. Until we get the estimate, and I don't know how far that's going to go. And it really depends on whether the pump needs to be replaced or not. If it can just be repaired, obviously that would be quite a bit cheaper. I don't have anything on Tobin Farm. Lions Estates, Tom was here just a few minutes ago. I don't know if you've been down there recently, but he's been doing a lot of subgrade work. He's been working, very expeditiously. Things are going along quite smoothly, I think. I've asked.
Well, there a couple of weeks ago. It's amazing how much.
I believe Graves was out there doing an inspection last week. I haven't got the inspection report in yet, so I can't give you any engineering perspective, but from the way it looks, it seems to be going along okay.
Just to go back to Piasta Road, the last time I walked up the road, things were looking really nice. So, I mean, just to the naked eye, and at the time, and I think it was in the early evening when I walked it, it looked like it was ready for acceptance, so that's good news. I know we've talked about this a couple times, and I know our hands are kind of tied. Is there any reason to put Misty Meadows on this? Is there any, I know that right now we can't take any action. Did we, I know there was a concern that was voiced to the town about the road, and did we get back to whoever made that concern and let them know the options that they have?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So, there's just not enough money in escrow to pave that road. So it's up to the landowners along the road to decide if they want to participate in a betterment program to raise the money to get that final push to complete the road.
Is there any way to try to, this wouldn't fall under any of the complete streets policy thing, would it? Stretch the imagination, I know the roads, there's no
Well, it's pretty much
sidewalks.
designed and built now. It's just a matter of finishing the top course of pavement. So I'm not sure there's any, new concepts that you could implement there now. I think the idea would be to just finish the road and get it accepted if we could.
Well, I mean, the road in this current state would make it difficult for bicycle riding or for pedestrians. So from that
Right.
standpoint,
No, it's
maybe.
true.
There are kids out there trying to ride the bikes, so.
The problem is it's not a public way.
Yeah,
So
I
the town
understand.
can't spend money on it.
All right. Next item, inspections and actions associated with site plans, JD&D Construction.
So we had the pre-construction conference with the developer and owner of that facility. He's actually revising his building because at the size it was designed for, about 6,600 square feet, it would require it to be sprinklered. So he wants to reduce the building size so that he doesn't have to sprinkle the building,
6,600 square feet?
something like that. Bill, you probably know, so over 5,000 square feet, I think you need to have sprinklers inside the
For
building.
some reason, I was thinking 7,500, but.
It's not quite that big,
No.
but it might have been actually because I think there was a second floor that
Yeah.
maybe wasn't counted, but in any case, he's decided to reduce the building size. And so I've asked him to prepare a new site plan showing a reduced building, which would then add more open space or green space on the lot.
Okay.
And he obviously can't apply for a building permit until he revises the building, has a new set of building plans. So I'm not sure how long that's going to take. I was thinking he would be able to hit the ground running, but it appears that he's hit a delay.
That's too bad. Dudley Solar?
Again, I've been in contact with the developer of that solar project. Graves had issued an inspection report a year or two ago with just a few minor items. So I sent that back to the developer. He was very interested in going out there and completing those items. So I'm hoping that we'll get a letter from him asking for a final inspection, that he's completed all the items that he was required to do. We had an issue that Richard brought up about 4 trees that were missing. They had gone out and planted 2 trees that were standing dead trees, and didn't realize that there were 2 other trees that had already been removed. So I've asked him to go back and plant 2 more trees. So I think they seemed very interested in finishing that project. At that point, then, we'd be able to release the whatever escrow funds we have on hand, so that we could wrap
Is-
that up.
Was this the same solar project that there was an abutter who had an issue that needed to be resolved? I
The
thought there was,
the drainage onto the abutters land.
This is the one by the high school? I'm not aware of,
I think it was Dudley Oxford Road that you guys were thinking
oh,
of.
okay, all right.
Or
oh, no,
Next one over.
the West Dudley
Oxford, yeah.
project.
Yeah,
Yes.
The next road over, yeah, whatever that's
Right,
called.
so, no, I haven't gotten a final resolution of that one yet.
Okay.
Planner's plate.
So we have, in terms of the zoning bylaw articles, we have two that will be on the warrant for town meeting. One will be the amendments to the mill conversion overlay district, which is somewhat similar to what you saw for the spring annual town meeting, except there won't be a waiver request for mixed use. Instead, we are sort of changing the bylaw to clarify what constitutes a mixed use. And one of those items would be community event center, which they are proposing, the developer is proposing for the mill. So if that amendment passes, his project would be considered a mixed-use project, so he wouldn't need such a waiver. We would add, he would still require the affordable housing waiver, so that will be on in the article. And then we're adding definitions for event center and community facility, which would then have lines in the use table. So the planning board would want to look at where, I have decided or thought those uses might be
So
appropriate.
that's, if I recall correctly, the proposed plan that we looked at for this complex, there was like a building down in the back that almost had like a separate walkway going to it, and they were talking about that being a proposed event center or something along those lines.
Mhm.
So is the thinking now, try and get that to qualify them under the requirement for?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a little discrepancy in the way the bylaw is currently worded. There's a sort of a clear purpose in terms of what constitutes commercial use, but then when you get into the actual definitions of what's commercial use, it's very limiting. So we want to try to broaden the actual standards for what constitutes a commercial use.
I also wondered, from the beginning of this whole discussion, how much commercial use is required? Is it a certain percentage of the whole project is supposed to be commercial, or?
The bylaws doesn't say.
It's really vague. It just says it needs to be part of. It doesn't really say a percentage or so much of, or
So why don't these
Right.
guys just put a little coffee shop in there and be done with it? Why, I don't even understand why they need the waiver.
He has considered some sort of a pub kind of an idea there. He hasn't committed to it yet, though. The other article is a request to change the zoning of 115 Schofield Ave, which is currently industrial 43 to industrial 130. The reason is that marijuana uses are allowed in industrial 130, but not industrial 43. And the owner has a proposed marijuana applicant who would want to do a retail facility in that building. So that would be the reason for that zoning amendment request.
Yep.
So
So are they looking for the planning board's endorsement of that?
it's a recommendation, at the planning board, it looks at each zoning article and makes a recommendation to town meeting. So that's the purpose of the public hearing, is for the planning board to investigate the request and offer town meeting its best recommendation as to whether to support or not support the article. It's a landowner petition for that article. You may or may not think it's an appropriate location for that use, so that would be your primary focus, whether it makes sense to rezone it to industrial 130. The uses are the same, almost identical for 130 and 43, except for the marijuana uses. The lot is over 3 acres, so it would meet the minimum lot size of the industrial 130 district.
Yeah. I think this is when we discussed this last time, that it was more, we were more concerned about the optics of how it looks. Does it look like spot zoning?
It's a legitimate concern whether that constitutes spot zoning or not, so I think we'd probably need to ask council whether that would be spot zoning or not. We have scheduled the public hearing for September 30th. That would be a separate meeting of the planning board, new meeting that we didn't previously have scheduled.
Okay.
It will be here. It will be an in-person presentation, but there will also be a Zoom component. Town council will attend via Zoom, and so other folks who wanted to participate in the hearing would be able to do so remotely.
So that's September 30th
Yes,
and 7 PM?
yes.
Anything else, planner?
Yeah, another thing I wanted to ask the board was, we've decided to revise the subdivision regs, and I've, sent out either paper copies or digital versions of the regulations, and asked the board to read them and come up with ideas for amending those regulations. So I was wondering what kind of a process you wanted to have. We could sort of take one session at a time at different meetings and sort of do it gradually, so you wouldn't have to, do a heavy lift. It would be something we could spread out, make it a little bit easier on you in the long term. Or if you wanted to, we could sort of take a couple of big chunks and maybe have one or two independent sessions and get through it quickly. So I'd be interested in your thoughts in terms of how you wanted to go forward.
I know Dan loves marathon sessions, so.
Dan's already looked at the clock. Yeah, I personally think that if the members could actually review everything and get their comments to you, of the, what are those, 90 pages? I think the last 30 are all drawings. There's 60 pages of additional information in there. We might only have comments on 15 pages. There might be a lot of it that can just be, I don't want to say glossed over, but that is good to go as it is. That might make it easier to, instead of talking about every single section, only talk about the section with his comments. But that would mean that we all have to do our homework prior to. How do you guys feel about that? You guys feel
Oh, I love homework.
good getting some comments into
Yeah, that's
Bill?
fine. Yep.
Yeah, I could put together a master document that would include all of the comments so that we'd have it all in one place.
Yeah, if you could go through the trouble, I think it would just make our job of going through it a lot easier.
Right.
Because, I mean, it is 90-some pages. Granted, there are drawings in there, but still.
One thing I think the board would be interested in is the performance guarantee sections.
Yes.
So I want to give that a pretty thorough going over.
Yes.
To make sure that you have all the authority that the law provides for you to make sure you can get adequate, you have adequate enforcement to make sure the road is constructed as designed. And I know we've had issues in the past of not having enough security on hand to finish roads, so make sure that we have good procedures for handling that.
Is this something that we could get onto our agenda for the first meeting in October?
Sure.
To
If you
take
can
a
get me your
small
comments,
portion of
right.
it? If you guys could get some comments into Bill by
By
end of the month,
September,
23rd, something like that? Because our goal is to talk about this at the spring meeting, correct? Spring town meeting?
No, it doesn't require town meeting action.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
It's really the regulations, so the board has the authority to modify them on its own.
Takes pressure off.
We'd have to have a public hearing at one point,
Yep.
and then you can go ahead and adopt them.
Excellent, okay.
Couple of other plans. There's a self-evaluation and transition plan under the Americans with Disabilities Act going on at the moment. The consultants were in this building a week or two ago assessing compliance with ADA standards. They're going to a couple of other town buildings and conservation recreation sites to assess compliance and identify where facilities don't comply. They will be putting together a report of, where the town currently stands as far as its ADA compliance. Then the town would have that document and could begin working on its deficiencies and apply for funding for, high-cost items that it doesn't have the funds to handle at the moment. We also had a meeting today with the Jericho-Brandon infrastructure plan. Ty and Bond is doing a very detailed infrastructure study, which includes water and sewer mains, and drainage, and surface conditions like roadways and sidewalks. So they've prepared sort of a draft mapping of what they've identified so far. We had meetings with the water and sewer superintendent and the highway superintendent today to sort of review that. A great many useful comments were made, so they're going to go back and revise those documents. We're shooting for a public meeting sometime in October. It's really not a planning board function, so it'd probably be just a public meeting that the town would have for the people of the neighborhood to come and report issues that they've had, maybe with drainage or water pressure or whatever they might have had, to provide more information to the consultants. And the idea is to wrap up that plan by the end of the year.
So this has just be an open meeting? This will not be a planning board meeting?
Correct. Having that plan then would enable the town to apply for additional funding for design and construction of needed facilities in that neighborhood. So I think the idea would be to identify the highest priority areas, whether it's drainage or water and sewer improvements. For example, the water and sewer superintendent was saying how old a lot of the water mains are in that part of town. They're old cast iron pipes and prone to breakage, and so we'd want to identify what the priorities are for making those kinds of improvements.
Okay. Lot going on. Nothing else, planner's plate?
That's it.
Any comments from the board? Audience left us. We have the next meeting date, that'll be the 23rd.
Yep.
Then our extra meeting on the 30th. Thank goodness that September has 5 Wednesdays for us. The signatory form for the Registry of Deeds, is there anything to talk about for this or for the approval of vouchers?
Under number 2, it turns out we don't actually need to do a new form. I had gotten a call from an applicant who had gone to record an A&R plan, and the registry at first wouldn't take it, so he called me to ask what was going on, but then they worked it out. The register did find the document that we have on file.
Okay.
So it turns out we don't need to do a new one at this point. Under number 3, there was a request to close out an escrow account, which is in tab F of your binder. So if you look, the second page there indicates that this is a printout from the accountant's software of the activity in this escrow account. So there was an initial deposit of $1,000 for this project, and it was intended to examine the feasibility of us creating a solar overlay district on land that's owned by the Derschmidts. And I wasn't here at the time, but it went through quite a debate, and when it got to town meeting, it was not approved. And as you can see here, none of the money was ever spent. Only some interest accrued to it over time. So that $1,000 is now $1,020.54. So since the project is not going forward, I thought it'd be appropriate just to return the funds to the applicant, and we can close out that account.
Sorry, what section is that you're looking in?
F.
F.
This was on Carpenter Road? Or was this location that they're looking for?
Partridge Hill, I believe.
Partridge Hill.
So Forefront Power was the solar developer on behalf of the owner of the property.
Okay, that rings a bell. All right. So it seems like it's pretty straightforward. Does the planning board want to make a motion that we release the escrow funds for Forefront Power?
I'll make a motion, to release the escrow funds to Forefront Power LLC, since the project is not moving forward.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to release the escrow funds of $1,020.54 to Forefront Power. These are for the solar project that was in the planning stages, the concept stages for Partridge Hill Road. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good to go. Just one good? You need 2 copies.
Just one, Michelle? One signed copy?
Anything else for us?
Nope, that's all I had.
All right.
We did get the escrow deposit for Lions Estates today, so we have finally got that check in.
What do you guys think? Motion to adjourn?
Sure.
I guess it's a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion
Do I
to
have a second?
adjourn.
Second?
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, everybody. Good night.